Before I start, maybe a few words about myself then. I am by profession a business entrepreneur and an executive recruiter. I am part of AltoPartners, which is a group of 63 offices around 36 countries. And the core of what I do day to day is placing executives in either C-suite jobs or in the boardroom, so senior level placements. Um, I am based in Poland, but I work globally, hence I would be very happy to share with you best practices, not only at home, but also abroad. Um, all right. So the question that Sebastian had approached me with is actually a very interesting topic, because as you can all imagine, COVID-19 has actually accelerated Industry 4.0 to the maximum speed it could that could happen. So today we are no longer talking about how AI and automation is going to affect our lives. Today we are already discussing how we can make better use of AI, automation, big data analytics, cloud technology, everything that encompasses the fourth industrial revolution, as you like to call it. I like to call it Industry 4.0. So what happens here, the big concern that normally university students had been sharing with me has been, what happens to us if robots and artificial intelligence are out there doing our jobs? Will there be jobs for us? Well, the good news is yes, there will always be jobs for us. I would say the good mindset to approach this subject is not thinking about in a fearful manner. It's more about looking at it from a very pragmatic, analytical perspective. So today what happens is AI and automation are usually geared for very, very repetitive jobs, jobs that can be copied and can be multiplied. So jobs that will require creativity, analysis, complex problem solving we are still not there yet when it comes to robotics and artificial intelligence. We might get there, but for today, this is where our value added will be sought after. In terms of my advice in terms of university students, I've listed 8 skills that I think will bring value to you. The first thing is what I call the global citizenship skills. One of the very important elements is to have a high level of awareness about the wider world. What's not only what is happening in your own backyard, but understanding how one action in one country can affect, ecological sustainability, could affect the weather. So the first thing is to actually really prepare for a global mindset, because once you have this, then it's much easier for you to understand and propose solutions forward. Innovation and creativity skills, of course, is very, very high on the list, and that is required across all the spheres of all jobs. You no longer go into a job as a clerk, wait for your boss to tell you what to do and then just do it. These kind of jobs have already been eliminated, and this is the I would say positive element of COVID. Because of COVID, we all went into a home office setup March last year. What happened in the business world was panic. That was the first reaction. There was panic on board. Everybody started looking at their top line, their bottom line, and a lot of decisions were taken. The decisions that were taken was, what do we need to have in place to have a sustainable business? What should we do to be able to survive this pandemic time? Obviously, what has happened is what I call decorations in the corporate world were all cut. So jobs that could be easily replaceable were eliminated. The jobs that were kept were those that required innovation, creativity, thinking. So the core jobs were saved, whereas a lot of side jobs were cut. Will these positions be rehired? I don't think so. You have asked me the question, okay, now after the pandemic, there will be a lot of people looking for jobs out there. That is a sad reality. At the same time, businesses will be also recruiting for new capabilities, which is already happening. Are these skills of those individuals that are out there looking for jobs, are they easily recyclable? The sad news is no. For these population, regardless of where they are in their career development, what is very important is, are they able to improve their, I would say, agile mindset? Are they flexible enough? Are they able to learn on the go? So learning skill has also changed from my time to your time. I remember that, you know, when I finished university, I was like, okay, did it, not going back into the classroom. Well, guess what? Today we all have to go back to the classroom because speed of change has increased dramatically. And the things that you are coming out of university today, I'm sorry to say, because it will break your heart, it will be obsolete on day one in the workplace. Well, that's a sad reality. But there's not much we can do besides trying to catch up. But this is going to be a continuous, I would say, game. So the very important element would be having this lifelong and student-driven learning. So for those who will succeed ahead, they will have to keep on studying. And now studying doesn't only mean in the classroom studying, though a big part happen in the classroom. A lot of it happens also via sharing, project work, discussion. You know, one of the advantages that you guys have is you're all doing an MBA, which means that the students around the classroom are also a very good source of learning for you. In one of your questions you had asked was, do MBA business schools actually prepare us better? Yes and no. I'm more tempted to say no, but it gives you a lot of value added, because very often your teachers are also sitting on boards. They are still actively in the business world. So what they are bringing you are not only textbook, but also their own personal experience. The second element is the students that you're studying today are the executives of tomorrow. And you want to keep that network alive, because this is where you will learn and share and say, hey, I have a business challenge. How would you tackle this? So this is the business schools are on top priority list when you're thinking of an executive career, because also of that network where you do a lot of sharing and learning. Now, it goes without saying that technology skills, well, this will be going up and would be more advanced as we speak. So we cannot, disregard. And today, what we understand by technology skills would be something different tomorrow. You probably are too young to remember, but I remember when computer came up and everybody was scared about computers. And now, can you imagine not having a phone? So we evolved quite rapidly. And I think we are all privileged to be going through those time of changes, because we actually see history happening. One of the things which I would also advise you to focus on is problem-based and collaborative learning. So one of the things that I value the most from all the business schools I have attended when I was much younger was actually case studies. Because at the end of the day, there might not be a right or wrong answer, because there are many ways to run a business and to solve a problem, but it enables you a much wider perspective. And it gives you the practical knowledge. This is because university prepares you to a certain extent, to a very limited extent, to the workplace. What prepares you to the workplace is work. It's practical knowledge, which is why I'm always very tempted when I meet third year university students when they say, oh, should I take the internship because I have a lot of study? Actually, yes, everybody should go for internship, even if it is unpaid internship, because that's where you put all the theory that you have learned in the classroom into practical, experience. So that is still very applicable today. I know that COVID has changed the structure of the office work, where you no longer have to go to an office to work, which actually is much easier for it's much easier for you millennials to adapt to that, because you have understood before we did that it is possible to be working from any parts of the world. An internship can be done in that matter. So you are more comfortable at doing it. You might as well do it just to build on your experience of working on project work, on your creativity, on collaboration, and interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills is one of the things that we don't learn at school, not necessarily, but this is where what will make a difference in someone's career. And here what we mean, it's empathy, cooperation, negotiation, leadership skills, social awareness. These are what we complain about COVID, that we are very concerned that our youth will be losing all their social skills, especially that, just to share a bit of a joke with you, when you would walk in a restaurant, you will see a group of friends and everybody focus on their phone. They are not talking to one another. From time to time, I was concerned that they were actually texting to one another, sitting next, shoulder to shoulder. But on a serious note, interpersonal skills is going to be very important. What does it mean? It means when you have problem solving, you will have to try to get the best out of everybody around. And to do that, you do need practice. So project work definitely enables that. And empathy, you don't get empathy by sitting and reading a book all day long, closed indoors. It's by mingling and discussing with others. So I would say these are the core skills that you can already find back from my presentation that I've prepared for you, that Sebastian can share with you. But these are the things that you cannot ignore. There is another thing which is worth mentioning. When I have a short list of executives that I'm presenting to clients, and they all have the same competencies level, what makes the difference is the attitude. It's the mindset. And this is something that, if you want to get into the corporate world, will either make or break your career. So it's very important for you to remember that it's not only competencies. So it's not only the technical aspect of the job that will ensure that you do well at the next level. In terms of the trends on the labor market, well, there's a lot of jobs that are becoming obsolete already, right? This has also been accelerated, I'm afraid, by COVID, by the present situation where we have learned to work faster, more effectively using AI. For example, if you look at the healthcare system, we no longer need to see a doctor and hold his hand. We can just go online. Very often there is just a bot giving us, the diagnosis, because it's all been a program as such. So it's true that the labor market before COVID is now obsolete. Now, does it mean that all the jobs will disappear? No, definitely not. But there are new components being added to the jobs. So, for example, a marketing director. A marketing director is still to ensure that, the sales and marketing activity of the business he or she is managing still expands. More consumers sell more, communicate more. But here you have a lot of additional components, which is why the continuous learning is very important. Because the consumers are not going to the stores anymore. Yes, everybody's buying online. And now that what we think is far-fetched today, we have companies that are already investing in virtual reality, where you have a shopping experience. You climb the ladders, the stairs, you put this thing on, the goggles, and you actually feel you're in a shop, but you're still sitting at home. So the whole shopping experience is being developed further, and there is no end to how advanced the whole technology behind it will happen. Now, if we stop learning in the middle of the way, we're probably not able to add value. So that's why the continuous learning is very, very important. There is a school of thought that the part, I know that you are all economic students, there is one aspect of the business world which is going to be very important. That is the service, the personalized service, the consumer experience. This is going to be what people pay for. So instead of going to a bot to have yourself diagnosed, you would want to go to a doctor to have, a very personal contact, a social contact, and the human contact. So what I'm happy to say is robots will not be able to resume the unpredictable behavior of human contacts, or humans. So there are, for example, if you also look at the present workforce, so there has been in the industrial sector massive layoffs. Some had to do it for survival, but some, just giving you the example of the Volkswagen case, which is a beautiful case, instead of going into massive layoff, they have actually reskilled their workforce, which were very normal, I would say manual work, into learning how to use the machines, how to use the automation being put in place. And I think this example, these are our workers, is applicable all throughout the work sphere. So again, there is no stopping. It's just the speed of change, the speed of learning. Everything will have to, be considered forward. The jobs at risk. These are the jobs that artificial intelligence and robotics can replace, the repetitive jobs, the clerks, I should not say it loud, but the accountants, the paralegals, or the legal assistants, all these. Nowadays, if you want a legal advice, you just go online, you type in your question, and you have all the possibilities. So you would be going to individuals for highly personalized services. The professions of the future are usually the jobs that will support development forward. So there has been a lot of, I would say, negative comments about, we will all end up being senile and inactive. That's not true. We will still have to work together to make progress happen. Yes, it just, there's no limit to progress. But, jobs like technicians, automatic technicians, all these science-related jobs, all these will still be required. It's not like overnight we'll have 10,000 robots building our roads. The work model is changing. And this is where I come in with my big crystal ball to decide what are the jobs of the future. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what are the jobs of the future. When I have high school students thinking that I will be able to tell them which way to go, I'm very tempted to say two things. One, if you're good at math, you will definitely have a job in the future, because everything that we have around us today requires a good knowledge of mathematics. So mathematics has not lose, I'm not a big fan of math myself, but this can secure you, your engineering degree, your IT. So math is still very important. But for our economic students, now that we are changing the work model, this is where you come in, because we do need a bit of thinking. We need of finding the solution. How do we function now where you have a workforce which is scattered not only across the country, but across the globe? The advantage of COVID, it is a real advantage, is it has taught us that we can work globally sitting at home. And I think businesses will be building on that, which is why you don't define, okay, I'm from Szczecin, so this is where I will work and these are my clients. No, as everything move online digitally, your client could be anywhere. So this is where you have to put on your creative thinking and come up with very diverse and new business model forward. So to answer your question, Sebastian, no, economic students will not become obsolete. On the contrary, they have a very important role to play in the future. So no. And then I have a list of very funny future jobs that I have been working on. I mean, I have to share with you a very recent requirement from the client. There is a function called human resources. And over the years, we have stopped calling, the chief human resources officer a CHRO. We have started giving it a title of chief happiness officer, chief engagement officer. And the latest post-COVID is we have wellness officer. So when you look at those titles, how the job is still exactly the same. But with the nuance of this, the new title, wellness, is because the job has new components to it. So it doesn't mean that the job changed overnight. No, they're just, as we progress through time, new components are being added to the job. The reason of wellness today, as you probably are aware, the fact that we are all isolated, mental health is in decline. We are all social beings, but the fact that we are either under lockdown or not able to meet one another, or just the work model change, well, mental health is in decline, which is why all of a sudden this new component gets added to the job to ensure that the whole population in the company is taken care of, that there is enough education, that there are enough ways to solve the mental health problem when it occurs. So as you can see, I would not say it's transformation overnight, it's just that new components get added to different jobs. So in terms of jobs for the future, I've gathered a very nice list, but it is happening. Personal digital curator, garbage designer, simplicity designer, AI assisted healthcare technician, digital tailor. I mean, there's all fancy titles, but what it's all about is the consumer needs are changing. The workplace has changed. The way we communicate or we purchase has changed. So these new jobs are just addressing and connecting the dots. So, but there are many, many new jobs that will be coming through because there's new sales channels also happening. One of the things that you have to also take into consideration, I know that this is far away from what you're thinking today, but we are all aging, and that is going to affect the workplace. This is an opportunity for you as you get out of university. Because by 2030, actually, at least 300 million more people will be above 65. And which also means that lifestyle will be changing. There will be a lot of more jobs related to lifestyle because we will be, healthier, we will be living longer, and we might be able to afford a lot of more services. So for example, healthcare, as an example, will be moving more from a general healthcare to a very personalized healthcare. So this is, again, a big world of opportunities sitting just right there. I think this, the truth about you or the generation before or the generation after, you will have to have in one career life multiple transitions. You are already the generation phase where you probably will not have one profession. You might have two or three. It is not excluded that you might have it at the same time, because we already see the behaviors changing. The fact that we can work remotely, we do not waste time between commuting. It is very probable that the percentages of individuals holding 2 to 3 jobs or having 2 to 3 different revenue stream increasing. So these are the changes that are expected to happen. And that is not only generation linked. This is just because now we somehow can combine 2 to 3 jobs. I think I'll leave a bit more time for questions or concerns that we have forward, because I did see a couple of questions coming in. Well, one of the things I've been observing with universities is, being in the corporate world, I can see myself and some of my colleagues being very regularly invited as guests. So this is not our profession. Very often, as I like to mention, this is giving back to the community very often. The fact that they are open for executives to come into the classroom and to share their best practices is already a very good sign for me. I wish I had that in my days. In my days, I had only lectures and I only took notes. But when I fell in the corporate world, it was a brutal reality. So I think from that end, the fact that there is more interest in getting an executive to come in and share, talk about transformation, talk about his business challenge, is already a very good thing that many schools are doing. But again, the speed of change is just moving too fast. I mean, I like to use the COVID example that it accelerated. I think there is a joke going on the internet. Who is responsible for your digital transformation? Is it your CIO? Is it your CFO? Or is it COVID? COVID pushed us to do a lot of decisions that we would have taken years to do. Now, learning doesn't always happen only on the university campus. Learning happens on the job too. Learning happens while you're doing internship. Learning happens when you are with a group of friends and they are telling you how they solve their business challenge, and not only. We have to move away from academic learning being the only source of learning. Lifelong learning, academic learning is part of it, but then you still have a lot of other ways to learn. So it would be very hard for me to give you a specific, okay, you should go to this course and that course. I think what is very important is the one advice I would give is, first, understand yourself. Be very, very self-aware. What gives you pleasure? What do you enjoy? What are your core interests? Once you have identified this, develop yourself around it. One can only be at his or her best in an area where we are interested and motivated and passionate about. So learning could happen in a museum, in an art atelier. It could happen anytime. It's more about the mindset than about anything else. The mindset is, if you're listening, if you're learning, there's no stop to that. And as much as I like academic learning, I do spend myself, I go to courses. I'm very, very interested in personal development. So I spend a lot of my time and resources on learning on new coaching skills, gestalt. I mean, I come up on a yearly basis with a plan for my own self-development. And I'm 52 for crying out loud. And I still have my own personal development plan. So I think every one of us should have this. You just manage your interest in a way that you get better at something that you are really honestly interested in, and then hopefully it serves you forward. I hope I have answered this question.
Yes, I think that was quite well. We have another question from our public, which I'm going to read out. Thankfully, this time the considerate person wrote it in English, so I'll have to yeah, do translation. So the question would be, Miss Corinne, at the beginning of your speech, you mentioned the effects of automatization on labor market. It's always good news that the intelligent, creative, and hardworking people will have a huge role to play in the future market. But what will be left of the other half of the society? Even today, lower skilled people have harder time adapting to changing world, and their labor market value will probably continue to decline. My question is, how can we help those people adapt to the changing market?
That's a very valid question, and that is a very important question. I believe it is our duty. I repeat the word duty, to help and upskill these people. Again, I go back to this example I gave about Volkswagen that had 300 manual workers that they had just to upskill. So it goes back to learning. It is not true that if you are a manual worker that you cannot learn. There are other new skills that, especially nowadays, we are in shortage of labor. And this is real statistics. So before COVID, in Poland, for example, we used to import a lot of Ukrainian workers because we did not have enough of our own. With European Union, we could go anywhere. So that created a lack of what I call blue collar workers. Today, after COVID, when I speak to my colleagues who are in that sphere, they say that it's not true. It's not true that you have tons and tons of them sitting along, but you do have to reskill them. So what some of those companies are doing, the Manpower, the Randstad of this world, very often they are taking these people and teaching them new skills, still in the field of blue collar work, but adapting to the market needs. Just writing them off as okay, you were, moving one capsule into another, on the factory floor. Today, the factory is no longer there. You have no job. Is not going to serve that. Actually, then we fall into the category of mental health challenges. But the way we can support these this specific population is, again, education, upskilling, reskilling. Where there is a will, there's always a way. So we just have to teach this population and give them the opportunity of using their skill sets in a different environment.
Got it. Yeah, we're still waiting. Again, and I encourage everybody on the Zoom to ask questions. We still have some questions prepared beforehand.
I still have one question
Mm-hmm.
which came out from the list of questions you gave me.
Mm-hmm.
How often do I need to change my job? Where is the best place to start, and what is more important, technical or personal skills? Now, I know that there is a myth that you need to change your job regularly. That's a myth I don't like.
Every 2 years, right? Every 2
Yeah,
years.
this is This is so not true, and this is so not fair on the executive life, because in 2 to 3 years you haven't had enough time to learn and prove what you can deliver. I believe that if you're willing to learn and you have a very straightforward communication with your employer, you don't have to change jobs every now and then. It's just that you move from one project to the other. But if you stay in-house, it also talks about your tenacity, your ability to manage stress, your ability to manage interpersonal skills with the given group of individuals. I honestly believe that changing jobs more often than 4 or 5 years is pushing it, and you lose your market value at the end. Today, I have, let's say, if I have a CEO, CXO job, I have a lot of problem to tell my client, this person has been with, I don't know, 12 employers in the last 20 years. That doesn't sell. So it's practically shooting yourself in the foot. Now, I understand that you want to change your environment to learn, but if the mindset is about learning, regardless of where you are, you still can learn. The job change, which happens too often, can actually can just spoil your opportunities forward. And business runs usually from a one fiscal year to another. So your contribution to that business can only be evaluated after one fiscal year. Now, it can happen that when you join, the first 6 months you're learning, you can't possibly deliver something after the following 12 months. So you do need some time to be able to say, I have contributed to, and this is what I've done. So you start a job as a project. You start from beginning, and you are able to demonstrate what you have contributed, what you have learned. So it's loyalty still stays as a very important value. Yeah.
I understand. Would you say that it's the same for, let's say, lower level jobs? So let's say somebody was climbing the corporate ladder, like he changed the jobs according to the stereotype of 2, 3 years, while he was under, like, say, middle management, and as soon as he hit that rung, as soon as he climbed enough, he started consolidating his position. Would you say that that's also looked down upon in the stratosphere of the corporate ladder?
Um, yeah, it is dangerous. It's 50-50. It's very dangerous. If you were a business owner, or if you were head of HR and you are about to recruit prospective team members, you would want to hire somebody with a bit of stability. Stability to bring to the team, somebody you can invest in the long term, that will be worth the investment, and you will also see the return on investment of that person. So longevity is a plus. Now, there is another side to the coin. There is longevity of, at least staying in the job for 5, 6 years. And then there's a longevity not changing jobs for 30 years and then one day waking up and deciding, okay, now I need a new employer. Now, here you have a completely different element. If you have been in the same job, doing exactly the same thing, you will have lost a little bit your adaptational skills. But you can be with the same employer and rotate jobs. And many organizations are doing that, meaning, you could be in sales, you take on a marketing project, you could be in marketing and contribute to a global finance project. So it's just touching many different things without having to change your jobs. And also you get, more trusted by prospective employers.
I get it. So there's also one other question that we had was, and again, I'm translating this live, so please give me some rope here. But in your opinion, in the context of future labor market, in the context of like the fourth industrial revolution, would you say that from the perspective of an employer, a person who comes with like interdisciplinary approach to learning So, as the adage goes, a jack of all trades, but a master of none, is a better employee to employ, or would you rather say that a person who specializes in one thing only has a better chance of climbing the corporate ladder or achieving success in the corporate world? And if you could elaborate on that and say why, and if that has changed as the time progresses.
Nowadays, I see more opportunities for those who can come with interdisciplinary. You can't be a jack of all trades. It is just too far-fetched. And you need a bit of years to be getting there, but there's no such, you can be a generalist. But interdisciplinary skills is of great value today. Why? Because as companies are redesigning themselves, the functions are also being redesigned. Some are combined, some will be, more focused. It's not an easy question to answer because there are still jobs that would require very high knowledge, specialized knowledge. I mean, if you go into medicine, you would want your brain surgeon to be a brain surgeon and nothing else. So you will still need the highly specialized skills. But at the same time, if we look only at the corporate world, I would say it's always beneficial to have touched multiple disciplines. One, it gives you the better understanding on what your colleagues or other departments are doing. Second, you have the opportunity of continuous learning. And this is how you build, your career path. Now, I'm going to say something that can be very seen as controversial. What I have observed post-COVID, as organizations have been redesigning themselves, meaning right-sizing, optimizing the blueprint, is I believe that middle management population will be reduced. This is not the population that will be pumped. The reason behind it is very often the new organizations that I'm seeing is the senior leaders are expected to be very hands-on anyway. So it's not like having an army of people doing the job. So the leaders are supposed to be hands-on, and the technical experts that are still highly required would come in and bringing the expertise. So there is a big population in the middle, which we call the middle management, might become obsolete for many, many reasons. One, the sales world infrastructure has changed. You don't need one guy that knocks on every door to go and sell something. We have technology today, which is we can sell online. Communication is just, via the internet can reach millions and billions of people. So because of that, that population would make the career ladder obsolete very, very soon, which is why interdisciplinary is a good answer. And also do contemplate, you might not have one profession, you might have a few.
Oh, so I see we have another question. We have now a question on the Zoom as well, which I'm going to read out. But wouldn't employers rather hire young people with new skills than struggle to retain, say, people over 50? What are the pros and cons in your opinion?
Ouch. Yes, this is sensitive, sensitive subject. In Poland, where I have been for the last 22 years, I believe that we don't have gender disparity as there are in other countries. I believe if you're a female executive and you are ambitious and capable enough, you can get to the top. What I believe is our problem here is ageism. Ageism is a real problem in the workplace. And why? Because in our country, it's very we are very pro young executive. Everybody wants to find a young executive with 15 years experience, which is usually, I feel my my anger rising. It's the reason that the youth are given priority, it is believed that they can learn faster. Yes, they can learn faster everything because mentally they are more geared up. Now, today that I am in the group of the 50 plus, I have a different perspective also. I think a few years back, I would probably not hire somebody on my own team that was of a certain age. Whereas today, I will reconsider that because there are a few elements. There is the availability of that person. There is experience that could be of benefit. There is questioning the status quo. So it's not an easy journey, but I do hope that there are new professions. For example, what I'm happy with, I run 3 businesses, and I have one of those businesses that is specially geared towards interim professionals. So it's C-level interim. And here I can only work with people who have a luggage of experience because they have to come in the workplace. They have 6 months and they have to transform either the business model or a department, and they have to bring the results. So these people can actually just work 24/7 because they are in this specific age group where they don't have to drop the kids at school. They don't have a lot of things to do in the family life. So there are places for these professionals, and I hope that this is a market that will keep growing as it is today. There's always the beauty of youth. What can I say? Learning. This is what would make what would make a difference. So keep learning.
Yes, I think that's a very important thing. I'll give some time for any of maybe students that are with us today to ask the questions on Zoom. You can write them in the chat. In the meantime, if you're okay with it, I'll also ask one question additionally, which was asked. Do you think, in your opinion, do scientists, so people who work in the university, who do this for the living, do you think they also can make a career in the corporate world? Or would you say that there is a visible effect of overeducation?
Overeducation. I don't believe in overeducation. I'm sorry, this is I believe you have to educate yourself as long as you can. Yes, there are a big place for academic scientists in the workplace. Actually, there are jobs rising where we need these kind of background because as related to Industry 4.0, data analytics, for example, becomes a very, very important element. Now, how do we read this? How do we translate this? There's a lot of research work to be done. There's a lot of analysis to be done. I honestly think that there is a not only a place, but a big one. And I think when I talk to my fellow academic teachers, I tell them, I know teaching requires a lot of preparation, a lot of time, but if you can afford it, give a few hours, do a bit of freelancing work here, do a bit of consulting work there, just to keep your skills sharp and to keep learning. It's again about the speed of change and staying abreast of what's happening in the world. But there's no such thing as overeducation.
So nobody is too good for the job, right?
No,
So,
no. That is a mediocre saying. I should not say that, but to tell somebody, I'm sorry, but you're overqualified for the job is like slapping the person across the face. Yeah. So I don't think this is practically a rude way of saying, no, we will not choose you because you might be too good and you might put in jeopardy my job as your boss. So no, I disagree with being overeducated. Now, maybe somebody has too many skills and is not utilizing all of them. But, if this is what you like to do, this is what you would want to do. This is a sad part of life where very often whoever is recruiting will define the level of education that the person might bring. but
Okay.
that's the world pettiness, I'm afraid.
Mm. So I see there's no more questions from our students in the room, so maybe I'll ask a question from me myself. Or, oh, wait a second, I see a new question popping up. So if you're okay, like with two more questions, would that be fine? Yeah, okay. So the first question, another question from our listeners and viewers from social media would be Miss Corinne. And again, thank you to the person asking it in English, make my job a lot easier. Uh, Miss Corinne, I like your idea of learning from different sources, both from traditional school or university and from alternative sources, internships or online courses. The problem with latter is, I think, no assurance of quality of the information. There's no assurance of quality of the information, especially with online courses and alternative educators. I'm currently studying about financial markets and already have found that a lot of information people can get from alternative sources can not only be far from useful, but also misleading. For example, in the field of investing and trading in the financial markets, a lot of educators are working for the brokers and have direct incentives to push trading strategies that benefit not only the broker, not the client. I see the person going very hard on some people. How can young people find good sources of alternative educations without falling prey to so-called educators that have conflicts of interests?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good question. This is obviously an unethical, being faced with unethical educators, as we can call them. Um, it Especially in the field of trading and brokerage. One of the best ways to ensure that you don't fall into the trap of unethical situation is to always check references from experts in the field. Um, for example, if I would be going for finance for non-financial executives, I would probably be speaking to my CFO colleagues and ask them, hey, what kind of courses would you advise and why would you advise? And even try to speak to one or two people that came out of it, of the program. Today, such information usually readily available where you can check alumni of certain programs. If it's not available, you can always ask the program to give you a couple of reference or referees who attended the course. Um, that's the beauty of having access to information. You will have to double check which is relevant and which is not. I have the same, I would say, challenges when it comes to coaching. I've attended courses that I've just sat there and done grocery shopping lists because the content was just completely irrelevant. Uh, but I was online, so I just had to sit there until the bloody thing was over. But that's the downside of having so much information and so much data freely available. You do have to pick and choose. So, and the best way is to double check with people who've actually attended the course.
So just actually to do your own due diligence and not
Yes.
just take
Yes.
everything at face value.
Yes,
Mm.
and this question is a very good one because I have come across a lot of commercially driven courses, but content-wise, they were far from it.
Mm.
Uh, and here I have to say, I've come across a lot of US courses that are excellent at marketing the content, and the content wasn't there.
Got it. Okay, I see no questions from a public, no questions from a social media stream. So a final question from me, as a second year student, I would like a question to you. What would you say would be a biggest change of mindset that the students have to take upon, like have to change their mind about working in the future, that would enable them to succeed? So what is one thing that, abandon some expectations or prepare for something else? What would you say would this one thing that would best
Mhm.
prepare them for the future?
To be able to answer the question, am I bringing value? The reason behind it is, we always have generation gaps, especially in the workforce. I remember when we were starting to look at the millennials, everybody was very concerned about hiring millennials because millennials will go into an interview and say, listen, Mr. Employer, at 4 o'clock, I have to go to my yoga lesson. And then in the morning at 9 o'clock, I have Spanish lessons. So I will be able to come in for 6 hours. And obviously, they probably did not get the job, or they created a lot of negative feelings around it. I think now we have all adapted to the real situation, because now our work-life balance is actually defined by how we plan our time. So I think the key question each and every individual should be able to ask is, when you have a job and a task at hand, is what is the value I'm actually bringing? If you're able to answer this question, it helps your self-worth, but it also helps justify why your employer is hiring you. This is a very important it's a very important question that you have asked, because the new structure of the commercial organizations will not have a lot of space for a lot of headcounts, a lot of what I call decorations. Yeah. How many people do you have in marketing? Oh, we have 30. What do they do? And then by the time you go down to the 30th person, you find out that a lot of jobs are being repetitive. That value of the job is very diluted. So nowadays, organizations are cleaning it up. It's all about effectiveness. Yes. Last year, we all talked about improve effectivity. So I think the question we should be going into the job is, am I bringing value? And then be actually able to, measure the value you are adding, and that it is real value, not just diluted because you are one of many people doing the same jobs. So I think it will secure your position also.
Mm, okay. I think that that was a great answer to the question. I think both the students and the people just in the labor market right now will greatly appreciate that, because I don't think many people are asking actually, what value am I bringing? So this is the last bell, I would say, to ask maybe like a very quick question, maybe still until we get to like 14, 15. If there's nothing, then yeah, I see nothing. So I would like to thank you, Ms. Corinne, very much for taking part in the speech, for sharing your knowledge, sharing your experiences. I think many people took many lessons, and the answers were brilliant. And thank you very much for taking part in it. It was a part of our Revolution 4.0 project, which we're organizing on our university, and there's soon going to be new events, and I invite every willing participants to participate in those as well. Yeah, we have also been co-organized by the Foundation for Humanistic Economics. And once again, thank you very much. And yeah, that would be all for today.
Thank you. Bye.